All right. Thank you, Dr. Conte. Thank you for being here again. We want to thank all Gambians as well and all those watching us for being here again this Sunday. Dr. Conte, we would like to talk about three things today. First off, we will revisit the National Assembly elections that concluded in the Gambia on the 9th of April. And we will also look at the upcoming new cabinet. Barrow is yet to appoint. Hopefully, he will appoint that cabinet by the end of this week. So we will look at that, possible contenders to the new cabinet, and possibly those who might not make it into the new cabinet. We will look at that briefly. And then we will look at the Standard Chartered Bank issue. Standard Chartered Bank has announced that they are closing business in the Gambia. Not only in the Gambia, but other places in Africa and the Middle East. So we will look at the reasoning behind that briefly also. So without wasting much time, we're going to go right ahead into the National Assembly elections and give it a little bit more scrutiny. Dr. Conte, we have the National Assembly elections concluded in the Gambia at the beginning of this month. And since then, Barrow has the National Assembly, the elected members and the 5 nominated members have already sworn in to the new National Assembly. But a couple of things came out during the swearing in and probably a few moments before that. And those are that Barrow's nomination to the National Assembly, the 5 nominated members, created a little bit of, how would I call it, a debate or argument among Gambians. Many argue that the nomination of the 5 did not follow best practice. Barrow should have, according to his critics, mostly on the UDP camp, that Barrow should have nominated somebody from the Chamber of Commerce, somebody from the disabled, and something like that, rather than his party militants. So that could be a valid argument. And also, he should have, according to UDP, he should have nominated somebody from the Christian community. And these are valid arguments or valid, excuse me, valid criticisms of the president's nomination. However, the bottom line is one might counter argue that the nominations follow the law. It may not be best practice, but it certainly was legal. Barrow has the prerogative to nominate anybody he finds, he deems fit to represent his agenda in the National Assembly. And, you know, I don't think his nomination to the National Assembly is very different or any different at all than the nominations he, as part of a UDP government in 2017, did as well. So the argument may be valid, but it is quite legal, and it may kind of represent a double standard from the UDP, because they did not do much better when they were in office as well in 2017, along with Barrow. I just wanted to say that briefly, and then we will. The other point that also brought some controversy is in the nomination and the election of National Assembly members is the position of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. Both positions went to APRC, Barrow's key alliance in the presidential election and in the National Assembly elections. Although, in my view, the APRC's significance to Barrow and NPP diminished quite a bit in the National Assembly elections. They played a crucial role sweeping the whole of Fonyi for NPP in the presidential election. But when we came to the National Assembly election, they lost the whole of Fonyi to the No Alliance faction of the APRC. And, we can now conclude that the reason for that is because of the conflict in the Fonyi, Casamance Fonyi region. So a lot of people in the Fonyis are very disgruntled about the lack of Barrow's lack of action, President Barrow's lack of action in dealing with the conflict in Casamance spilling over into Fonyi. It's a complex issue, but I believe strongly that that was the main factor that NPP lost Fonyi, or I would say APRC lost Fonyi to the No Alliance faction of former President Jammeh. So that was very controversial. The nomination and election of Fabakary Tombong and Sidi Njai to the Speaker, National Speaker, respectively, both from the APRC. The Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, Dr. Conte, are the third and fourth most powerful persons in the government, in the country right now. The Speaker, they are in the line of succession to the presidency. The Speaker is the third in place to succeed the presidency in the event of death or infirmity of President Barrow and the Vice President. And then next in line would be Sidi Njai. So these are very powerful positions. Nonetheless, both went to APRC. And the controversy around this can be understood because both Fabakary and Sidi Njai played a crucial role in Jammeh's rule, in Jammeh's tyranny, I would say, in the country for nearly 22 years. Sidi Njai particularly went even further to even assist Jammeh to refuse to relinquish power after losing elections in 2017. So he was appointed, he was given a snap appointment as Minister of Information to wage a propaganda for Jammeh to help him stay in power, contrary to what the election law dictated. So Sidi Njai's appointment is very controversial, but we'll see how they do in the assembly. Also, the other argument that was made, Dr. Conte, is in the case of Fatoumata Jawara, who was a nominated member to the National Assembly. Fatoumata Jawara has been criticized widely for his incompetence in the National Assembly, his lack of education and lack of experience. But also he was criticized for having been rejected in the polls. It will be good to recall that Fatoumata Jawara contested in the National Assembly elections for Kalindin constituency and lost. And many believe that somebody who contested in the National Assembly elections and lost, and Barrow nominating that person into the National Assembly to represent is insult to the Gambians. That's a funny argument. There might be some truth to it, but the having contested in the National Assembly and lost is no requirement, is no reason to be not considered for nomination into the National Assembly. Elections are numbers games. Losing the election does not mean that you are totally rejected by the people. This happens in many ways. In the U.S., for example, the current vice president, um, uh, Miss Harris, Kamala Harris, contested in the attempted to contest. He ran in the Democratic primary, and did not go anywhere. One can argue that she was rejected by the people, and Biden turning around and nominating her as a running mate, and now she's the vice president. Uh, could be argued along the same similar lines, but it doesn't really make total sense that somebody who lost in the elections cannot be appointed into public office. No, so that argument to me is really flawed. There is some element of understanding to it. I can understand where the critics are coming from, but in my view, the argument is seriously flawed. Fatimata could be criticized rightfully for her competence, and her ability to articulate and help, shape uh, the future of our country in terms of legislation, in terms of oversight function, her oversight function of the executive, and so on. So, Dr. Conte, these are some of the controversies that came out in the aftermath of the National Assembly elections that I would like to highlight and bring to light. We can look at that a little bit. I have said so much on that. Dr. Conte, what are your views about what happened in the aftermath of the National Assembly elections?
Well, number one, when it comes to appointment, the president has a prerogative to appoint whoever, as long as it is in line with the constitution of the country.
Right.
But also, I'm trying to go back to think the last National Assembly, especially the nominated members. Were there any Christians there?
Nope.
Okay, so the only Christian we currently have is the Minister of Fisheries, right?
Right.
So is it not a double standard on the part of UDP to question that when they had the wherewithal to appoint? Because when Barrow came in, he said he did not know much for them to show him the way. So why are they now talking? And was it not their Barrow? And now they're trying to disown him because they all fell apart. So I tend to disagree with that assertion. But I hope we can have a competent parliament. And for us here in diaspora, I think we need to try to get private citizens bill coming into parliament. One area is the dual citizenship that we still have in the constitution that denies Gambians to serve their country. Every single day, Gambians diaspora Gambians contribute to the GDP. According to their own figures, it's about 27%. One can say 1/3 of the GDP. And yet still, diasporans cannot hold elected office in the country, even ministerial positions. What I just don't understand is that if you support a family, 365 days, or one can say 12 months out of the year, I think you're still living in the Gambia. as compared to any other person. So, but we should try to come up with engaging parliamentarians or National Assembly members to see whether they can um, repeal or that entrenched law in the Constitution. I met a gentleman who ran for president of Sierra Leone here in Minnesota, who actually ran against the current president of Sierra Leone. And after he lost the election, he came back to the United States. What is wrong with us that our own citizens, including me and you, that we don't have that opportunity? Another area of the National Assembly that I'm very concerned about, and I think we will talk about it later on maybe, is the lack of understanding on the budget process of our country. Uh, when they increased the salaries, or when they made an announcement that they were going to increase salaries, I vehemently argued against increasing salaries without adjusting revenue. So now the government has come up with saying that, oh, we are going to try to reduce expenditure. And I remember writing to the office of the president, 2021 fiscal year budget, saying that it wasn't sustainable. I said by December 31, 2021, but this was in December 2020 when I wrote to the State House. I said that you're going to have a supplementary budget request by before December, and by July they did request for one. And then when they brought up the 2022 fiscal year budget, I argued against that, and they went out again in January of 2022 to announce increase in civil service salary. When I did the compilation, some civil service grades were increased by almost 500%. I said it's not sustainable. And in fact, I made an argument, that if you are going to increase the budget after you pass the fiscal year budget, you should make adjustment to the budget and in fact try to even have a mid-year budget cycle and then begin the new fiscal year by July 1, 2022. It fell on deaf ears. And now the government is saying that, oh, we are going to cut down expenditure. So I hope we can have a competent parliament that can understand the budgetary process and also how we are able to increase our revenue. Up till to this day, I am also against the unilateral responsibility given to the Gambia Revenue Authority, whereby they have the responsibility to assess, collect, and record taxes. I hope we can have National Assembly members who are willing to listen to see whether, in fact, they are able to pass the repeal of the Gambia Revenue Act. So I stop right there.
Thank you, Dr. Conte. Thank you very much for that. Absolutely, that is very, very correct. Actually, I think, like you said, I think the government, the announcement of cost-cutting measures in the government, it is a good thing. It is good to hear that. But I think the government could have gone further than the steps it has taken. It should really cut costs, go deeper in cutting costs in the government. There's a lot of wastage in the Gambian government. Not only per diems and travel allowances and all that, but they should, in addition to all that, I think they should definitely look at seriously cutting down the size of the government itself. Foreign ministry needs to be really, really curtailed, cut down, probably even by half or more than that. Many areas of our government is really bloated and consuming a lot of taxpayers' money for no good reason. The state-owned enterprises, like we always argue, Gamtel, Gamcell, NAWEC, they really need to be seriously reformed and probably totally privatized. They are a waste of Gambian resources. And like you said, the GRA, Gambia Revenue Authority, need to be cut into pieces. The responsibilities need to be divided. You can't lump all those three responsibilities into the hands of one entity. That itself creates some kind of conflict of interest there. But Dr. Conte, I also wanted to say that the National Assembly needs to really reclaim its powers and authority. The National Assembly is a very powerful institution, and my hope in government, is really with the National Assembly. I think the National Assembly is capable of doing a lot more than even the presidency. So they need to sponsor bills. They need to take a very proactive position in terms of reforming our country, passing laws that will definitely transform the Gambian economy and Gambian society. I have that big hope in the National Assembly. I think I hope they take steps to do that. Even though we lost some key members in the National Assembly, Halifa is not there, Sidia is not there, Yakumba Jaita is not there, so we lost some very key people in the National Assembly. But I hope these new faces there who will be bold enough not to just be a rubber stamp for the executive, but also be more proactive in terms of defending the interests of the country. But we will see how this plays out, but I think that's all I want to say on this National Assembly election, Dr. Conte. The next thing we have is going to be the appointment of the cabinet. The president, hopefully this week, will appoint his cabinet. There's been a lot of speculations about who is in and who is out. We don't know for sure as yet. Barrow can be quite unpredictable sometimes. I guess all politicians are, to some extent, quite unpredictable. But we can a little bit speculate that certain people are likely to stay. One such person is going to be Ahmad Ba. Ahmad Ba seemed to have secured a very firm place in Barrow's cabinet. The 4 seats that NRP brought to the NPP coalition are significant, and Ba has been an attack dog for President Barrow. He has made himself, I would say, a puppet, but I mean, I'm tempted to say a lapdog, but I think I will withdraw that too. But Ba has made himself the champion of Barrow's cause, blindfolded, I might say. So he seems to be well secured. He seems to have gotten a pretty firm job security in Barrow's government. So he's likely to stay. I don't know if he will stay as tourism minister. His portfolio may change, but definitely I want to believe that he's going to be, with almost certainty, he's going to be in the cabinet. There is speculation that the current vice president, Madam Toure, may leave, maybe exchange for Fatmata Jahumpa Sise has been mentioned quite often that she may replace, she may succeed Madam Toure, Asatu Toure, the current vice president. But I think this has been debunked. I think, as I read in the Gambian newspapers, years. I think the government, several people in the government, including the government spokesperson, I believe, came out and rejected this claim that it is not true. I don't seem to believe that Fatmata Jahompa Sise will replace Aissatou Touré. Aissatou may go. Barrow may decide to replace her. I think she has been an effective vice president, but she has been a little bit more lukewarm. But one can also understand that the position of vice presidency is not a very active role in the government. Vice presidents are pretty often just assistants to the president, and they don't really make major decisions as such. The whole tenure of Aissatou Sedi on the Jame has been just as docile and uneventful, just as much, except the student riot in April 10 and 11. Her role has been quite pretty low key. So Aissatou may go, she may stay. I tend to believe that Barrow may decide to replace her. Also, I will not be surprised if Mambo Njai is fired or maybe replaced. I hope Barrow replaces him. I don't really believe that Mambo Njai, with all due respect to him, I did advocate for him in 2017, largely because of the way Jammeh treated him. But currently, I'm not really satisfied with the way he's handling the Gambian economy. So I would definitely like to see him replaced. And I hope Barrow does that. But Barrow may really, I don't think he will lose anything, because if you look at the National Assembly elections, NPP did quite poorly in Banjul. I used to believe that Mambo Njai's job has been secured largely because of Barrow's interest in Banjul. But the National Assembly election, the results of the National Assembly election seem to have debunked that. So I think Barrow should have a free hand now to be able to replace Mambo Njai with somebody more aggressive, more, I would say, more transparent, more willing to deal with the root causes of the problems in the Gambian economy than Mambo Njai. Tangara at the Foreign Ministry, he's a good guy. He's been there for many years, but I think Tangara should be willing to reform the Foreign Service, cut down on the size of the Foreign Service and the budget of the Foreign Service, even by half, maybe more than that. Otherwise, I think he should be replaced. So far, I think he's doing a great job, in terms of, sticking out for the Gambian interests in global affairs and in the global economy, Gambia's relationship with other countries, but he still needs to be able to bring reforms into that sector. Otherwise, I think it's time to replace him with somebody who will be more forthright in terms of reforms. So Tangara may go, he may stay. We'll see how Barrow deals with that. But definitely, I would like to see reforms in that. UDP, when UDP was there in the foreign service, they didn't do much. In fact, I believe UDP expanded the foreign service, bloated it with party militants and people who add no value to our foreign service. So I think it's time to do some cleanup. It's been long overdue. Some cleanup in that in the foreign service, cut down its size and cut down its budget uh, to help the Gambian economy at home grow. Um, but Dr. Conte, one thing I also like to see the president do is not only to replace some of these ministers, but also to definitely make reforms about the people surrounding him. These so-called presidential advisors needs to go. Recently, I had them talk about the Council of Economic Advisors. I don't know when that was formed in the Gambia. It just seems to be a new thing to me. I've just started hearing about it probably in the past 2 weeks. I think they call the Council of Economic Advisors to deal with to come up with an approach to deal with the current economic problems in the Gambia, mostly price increases and the of basic commodities. So I don't know what really the function of the Council of Economic Advisors broadly is, and how much power they wield. But they've started talking about that. I think, however, that body will be more important, should be given more importance, at least, by the president than these so-called um, presidential advisors in the persons of Dusano, in the persons of even the guy from Bacau, Dembo by force, in the persons of, I really don't know what value these people are adding to. They can work at the NPP office and try to build and develop the NPP as a party and broaden its grassroots base. But working at the state house as political advisors, I don't really know what value they are bringing to the office. So that is an area I definitely like to see change. Dr. Conta, what do you think about the upcoming cabinet?
Well, again, it's the prerogative of the president to choose his cabinet, and but I am just alarmed, uh, by asking or tasking an agency or a group of advisors on price increases. We live in a free economy, and most of the goods coming into Gambia are imported. We have no control over the unit cost of the item that our merchants are going to buy. And when they get to the country, the ships sometimes stay for about 3 weeks before they are unloaded. So, uh, as a result of that, the unit cost for those products will increase, because if you are a transporter and you have something to deliver, but you have to sit for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or even 1 week, you are going to add the cost of that to the uh, folks who purchase the items and they have been shipped to the destination. So I don't understand how groups of advisors can come up to say, let's decrease prices, because the merchant also would like to make a profit. So you cannot have price control in that area. I believe maybe the advice that they can give to the president is to reformat the value added tax, which is 15%, to say that that tax is regressive. It goes to the bottom earner. I also hope that they can see, to tell the president that we need to find ways to increase our revenue stream. And if that is the case, we need to repeal the GRA Act. I am of the belief, that since the Gambia is a member of ECOWAS, There is no way that we can stop Senegalese merchants from bringing in cement from Senegal to sell them in the Gambia. The question here is that why is it that a bag of cement in Jarosoma is $320, but a bag of the same cement that was packaged because we don't produce cement in the Gambia. They just bag them over there. The powder just comes in and they put them in bags. So that being the case, why is it that the unit price of the cement coming from the Banjul port is more expensive than the one coming from Senegal sold in Farafenni? So we need to ask that question. If I am, I, all of us are doing construction in the Gambia, I would go ahead and buy the bag of cement from Senegal than buy one from the Gambia because I can still save $30 per bag. A few years ago, the bag of cement was 250, but now it went up to $350. I know that they call them cement producers. They don't produce cement. They just assemble. They just bag the cement. That they are complaining that the Senegalese cement is running them out of business, and they started. Some of them have started laying off folks. But I believe in nationalism. But since we have this regional integration and we are a member of the ECOWAS, we also should have the ability to sell our products in Senegal, and Senegal should not stop us. But if Senegal, goods coming into Senegal can be unloaded within a week, and it takes 3 weeks to unload ships in the Gambia, that is something that the government should seriously look at. I also believe that that disaster may happen because there's only one way in by land to Banjul, and the other one is by sea. The Dendon Bridge is so we need to have some form of contingency planning to say whether it is possible that we can find alternative unloading places. Maybe if it is not Gunjur or Tangier, or even right across from Banjul, which is Bara. But we cannot continue to rely on Banjul exclusively as as a shipping point because in the event of disaster, we may not be able to get to Banjul. So, but the fact, that tasking groups of advisors to see whether prices can decrease imported goods, uh, I don't support that idea. All I can just say is that the government needs to repeal VAT, value added tax. Let's run a deficit if that's going to be the case. Because right now, if you ask even the Minister of Finance, can you tell us for fiscal year 2022 what was the total tax revenue collected on VAT? He probably wouldn't be able to tell you that. So if the government is going to tell, if the Gambia Revenue Authority is going to tell the government that, oh, we collected 100% of what was asked of us to do, which was about 18 billion in 2021. My argument is, or my proposal will be, why can't you increase the revenue to at least 27 billion and you entrust them to collect? Because I think the Gambia Revenue Authority has a responsibility, has the ability to be able to assess taxes to the extent of 27 billion. But no, the government is just going to do mediocre increase. And then there is no way that a government or any business or entity can try to increase expenditure without looking at the revenue stream. So let's see what this crucial advisor is going to be. I don't want to criticize his political appointees or advisors in the state house. That's his prerogative. But I think the government needs to seriously look at fiscal and monetary policies. The Gambian dollar has devalued tremendously, and some people think that just because you send money to somebody, they're going to be collecting more of that money. But then you're going to turn around and go to the market and buy goods, and those prices have increased as they have escalated tremendously. So again, only if you live in the provinces and you want to eat locally made goods, food, or any other activity, then you are okay. But if you live in the KMC and the West Coast region, and also you live in Banjo, it is very difficult for you because some people in the Gambia are unable to even eat breakfast or much more lunch or dinner. So the president has a task to do. But again, I don't understand how you can increase the Ministry of Finances budget to 1 billion when agriculture's budget is less than 4 billion. And we also need to look at our revenue stream in terms of domestic revenue and versus project and program grants in the Gambia. Our budget allocation or forecast, our domestic revenue is only for 57%. So which means that without having project or program grants of 43%, we will not survive in our country. So this is the task, that the new finance minister should look at, find ways and means to increase the revenue stream, especially now with the Ukraine war and the inflation that is affecting, having almost every country in the hemisphere. Do you really think Western countries are going to be surrendering much needed funds to us? If you look at the project and program grants, we ideally actually increase what we call jobs in Western countries, because most of the program and project grants, if you look at them, they are denominated in what in fixed assets. So if we're going to build, we're going to be using goods from Europe, and that's going to create employment. What is the immediate impact that we have on the program grants that we have? Is it even 10%? I don't know. So I hope the president can have the wisdom to select a cabinet that is reflective of the Gambia, a cabinet that is aware of issues, and I think he needs to trim his cabinet. I don't see a reason why we need to have Ministry of Tourism. I asked that question. I don't get it. Why do we have Ministry of Youth and Sports when we have education? Can we put them together? Why do we even have Ministry of Women Affairs? Can we just say Ministry of Health and Social Affairs and incorporate women affairs with that? And so many, or why do we need to have even Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Fisheries, when we can put all of them? When it comes to health, water resources can be on the health. When it comes to agriculture, fisheries and forestry can be on agriculture. A small country with 18 or 19 ministries is something that I just don't understand. But again, the president has the wherewithal to select whoever he wants to select. And let's wait and see. Maybe within 7 days, he'll come up with his cabinet. So I don't want to criticize his selection. I think Fatoumata Jahumpa misspoke. She spoke to a friend who leaked the message to the people. I don't think the president is going to select her.
I don't think so.
I don't. I think she just messed up herself. I don't think the president's going to nominate her.
I doubt it.
Somebody who cannot keep a secret can just release it like that. If you put that person as vice president, what do you think the individual is going to do? I don't, I mean, I know, I used to defend her, but I think she's gone overboard when it came to that. I think there are more people in the Gambia who can be looked at, folks who can have independent minds. And the president should begin to realize that you can have folks with you who will disagree with you. They make you stronger. But anyone who say yes, 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 Mr. President, they are only there for their own selfish needs. But I hope he can understand that, you know. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Conte. Very well said. You said a couple of things I want to emphasize a little bit. You are absolutely right. I think the very independent, open-minded vice president will be very helpful to Mr. Barrow. I think actually the vice president should be the closest and the best advisor to the president than all these other political advisors, around him. Barrow needs to have Dr. Ture or anybody who is to be his future vice president to be with him all throughout any major decisions he's about to make and put in her input, all the time to guide him, to help him, to assist him to make the best decisions for the country. So I think the presidency should really rely and utilize the vice presidency much more than it is currently doing. Also, I think Fatimata Jahompasi says, I don't think she will make it to the vice presidency. I don't think APR, that will be too much APRC in government for Barrow. It will further hurt, it will further damage Barrow's reputation. Given the speaker and the deputy speaker position to APRC and then also the vice presidency, it will not go down well. So I don't think FJC would be considered at all as the vice president. But yeah, on the economy as well, like you said, with the current crisis around the world and with Dalasi depreciating against major global currencies, and the Gambia, considering that the Gambia is an import-based economy, we don't produce anything; we import everything. That in itself is a big problem for the economy. It is further setting our economy back on a daily basis. It is pushing prices to be more and more get higher more and more because of the declining value of the dollar and our increasing dependence on imports into the country. But I think that's so much for that. Dr. Conte, we will briefly look at the Standard Chartered problem going on right now. This is already in the public domain. It's been discussed quite extensively. The officials of the Standard Chartered broke the news, actually, that they are closing business in the Gambia. Well, they said they are not closing business, but effectively, in my view, they are closing business. Much of the talk they have been doing is pretty much, in my view, a PR stunt. They are trying to put a spin on the obvious in order to retain their employees and to retain their clients. They don't want to alarm the clients and their employees who might start living in drones, forcing the bank to abruptly shut down. So they're trying to buy time. They're going to close. What they are effectively saying that they are selling all the shares that the Standard Chartered Bank, main Chartered Bank UK owns in the Gambian branch. That is up to 75% of their shares. Only 25% is held by Gambians. So they are, according to them, they are selling that 75% of the shares to new investors, and then who will take ownership of the bank, and the name of the bank will change from Standard Chartered Bank to something else. So effectively, it's going to transform into a completely new bank. Standard Chartered will have nothing to do with the bank. It's going to be a completely new bank with completely largely new ownership. The 25% ownership in the Gambia may still remain, but Many may decide to sell their shares as well. But this is the reality. And the truth of the matter is that the bank is not doing well in the Gambia and in other countries where it is closing also. And so the future of the bank in terms of employment, in terms of investment, is quite uncertain right now. And this is where the bank is trying to manage. This is what they're trying to manage. They went to an extreme point of meeting the president for what? I don't even know. This is an entirely business matter. The president has nothing to do with this. As long as the bank is winding down, according to the law, there's no reason going to meet the president and bringing in their regional officials and stuff like that to again do a spin-up, a PR stunt. I don't really see it. And Dr. Conte, to go broadly, I think, in my view, I don't have the very recent data from the Gambia because data sharing is a problem in the country. We all know that. But based on the information I have, the banking sector is not really doing very well as well. Just like the rest of the economy, it is struggling really hard. I look at a little bit of the banks, Standard Chartered and Trust Bank's financials. But before I go into that, I have to say this, Dr. Conte, we have to have a law in the country where all these publicly owned companies have to publish their financial statements annually. It helps citizens to understand how these companies are doing. It helps investors to understand how these companies are doing. But that's a problem in the country. If you want to look at the financials of these companies, most of them are lagging way behind. Probably the latest information you can find will be 2019. A couple of years ago, a year or two ago, the latest you could find was 2017. Now I think they may have up to 2019. But we have to make this an annual thing. The government needs to be tough on this. We have to have a law that requires these publicly owned. Privately owned companies, I don't really care too much. They are privately owned. But publicly owned companies need to publish their financials every year. In the US, they all do. And they do a very comprehensive, they call it a 10K, very comprehensive reporting to the public and to the investors. Investors rely on those data to make decisions about where their money is going to go. But if you look at having said that, if you look at the Standard Charter, I think the latest information I found on their data is as of April 19, 20 this year, I think Standard Chartered Bank's PE, that's price to earnings ratio, is at 6%. 6, right? So, and I compared that to, that is low, really, to begin with. That is quite low. That means, what that number actually means is that investors are willing, or buyers are willing to pay 6 times, only 6 times, the price of the bank's shares. How do I call it? Stock price. So that is quite low. I think the average by some benchmarks in the US is 13 to 15, a PE of 13 to 15, price per equity, price per earnings ratio of 13 to 15. So 6 is quite low for Standard Chartered Bank. But that is even higher than the PE ratio of Trust Bank. And I could be wrong on this, but based on the information I have, Trust Bank is only 4. So you can see a struggle in the banking industry in the Gambia. I compared this to some of the information in Ghana. Standard Chartered Bank operates in Ghana as well. It's not quite very different. So what I really want to highlight is that the bank is struggling. It's not doing very well in the Gambia. So I'm not really surprised that they're trying to get out of the Gambian market and some other markets also. But the bottom line is these numbers do not really mean much unless you know the industry averages. And this is what is the problem in the Gambia. So because many of these companies do not regularly publish, do not regularly and I don't know how to put it, more timely publication of their financial data, you cannot compare across the industry and see who is doing well in relation to the industry average. So it's difficult. We know, for example, if the PE ratio for Standard Chartered Bank is accurate, as I said, 6, and Trust Bank is accurate at 4, we don't know. I have no information about the rest of the banks in the country, and I don't know the average for the banking industry. So I cannot really say how Standard Chartered Bank is doing vis-a-vis the rest of the banking industry in the country. But based on the data, the scanty data I was able to get about Standard Chartered and Trust Bank, in my view, I want to believe that the banking industry, like the rest of the Gambian economy, is struggling really hard. So that is the reason why Standard Chartered Bank is closing its doors in the Gambia, selling off its shares, and moving out. And it was said that, Dr. Conte, I think they said that only 25% of the shareholders, the shares are owned by Gambians. The rest is outside the Gambia. And I think Standard Chartered also Bank reported that their market cap is 2.7 billion. And I believe that's just the Gambian market. And the number of shares, the shares outstanding is 135 million. So those are quite staggering numbers, but we'll see how this transition works out for the bank and whether they are going to be able to pull this off smoothly, considering that the jobs and wages of their employees and the fortune, the wealth of their investors are pretty much at stake at this moment. Dr. Kota, what do you have anything to say on Standard Chartered?
Oh yeah, I do, because while you were talking, I was just researching the Standard Chartered Bank of the Gambia. No financial statements, meaning that they don't have any annual report.
No.
Then I went to Standard Chartered Bank Ghana, and they have annual report.
Yeah.
So you are so right that the government should require banks to publish their annual report, their financial outcomes, and also be subjected to audits.
Right.
So I'm looking here in Ghana. They have the profit before tax. They gave the percentages in the Ghanaian ceiling CDs and so forth. But in the Gambia, we don't have anything. So, but I want to concentrate on the business entity approach that because I've been writing and saying that the governor has no powers to preempt or to stop the Standard Chartered Bank from leaving the Gambia. The announcement was made by the parent company in the United Kingdom, and I looked at I look at the fiscal year end, and I believe it's February 1 is their new year. So I'm predicting, that the Standard Chartered Bank will leave the Gambia by January 31, 2023. Okay, let's be realistic here. The board of directors, they have the responsibility of hiring officers. Okay, and the officers also have the responsibility of hiring senior managers and managers, and you know. But then when it comes to the shareholders, they are responsible for voting for the board of directors. So if the board meets and it makes a decision that these banks, 15 branches in Zambia, uh, I believe Sierra Leone, Cameroon, uh,
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, they are going to close them. And even in Nigeria, they are closing 5 branches. Who is the governor of the Gambia? What power does he have to stop these people from leaving? If, again, so you say the Gambian investors only own 25% of the shares and 75% outside. So that actually, in a sense, gives them also slight significant influence. But there is no way that the governor of the central bank can try when he's trying to tell people to buy shares in Standard Chartered Bank. Yeah, you can buy shares in Standard Chartered Bank, maybe Ghana, maybe other African countries. You can also buy shares in the home country, United Kingdom, but there is no way that you can buy shares for Standard Chartered Bank in the Gambia because that bank is going to be closing. If you're going to buy, okay, so now it's telling people to buy these shares. So if the folks going to buy, who is going to collect the money? Because Standard Chartered Bank is not going to collect the money. Is he acting as a conduit to get investors to say we are interested in buying stock? And but that's going to come for the new bank, because the name Standard Chartered Bank is what is a brand name, and that name is going to cease to exist. So with all due respect, I don't even understand where he's coming from. But again, Gambians have every right to get their money out of Standard Chartered Bank. The employees of Standard Chartered Bank, they have every right to seek employment elsewhere. But let me just say something here. So if Standard Chartered Bank is going to leave, number one, they're going to sell their assets. And if they sell their assets, it's possible that the sales price may be more, less, or equal to the book value. And any proceeds that they have to pay the expenses first to the people who helped, to sell those assets, and also maybe even employee salaries. And after paying those salaries and other expenditures, they also have to turn around and pay the liabilities they owe before shareholders can even come to get, their compensation on what they have uh, invested in. When you are equity shareholder, it's not a guarantee that if you're going to sell your shares, you're going to get more than what you paid in. It's not a guarantee. You may even get less than what you've paid in. So now, is it not good for us to look in the best interest of Gambian investors, the 25% that you're talking about? Because you cannot. There is nothing here that says Standard Chartered Bank Gambia annual report. So you only gave me 25%. But do we know? Do we know the shares that were authorized by the government of the Gambia relative to Standard Chartered Bank? Do we know the shares that are issued and outstanding? Do we know? Do we know the par value of the shares to invest in Standard Chartered Bank? Do we even know the book value of Standard Chartered Bank's uh, equity shares? Do we know whether Standard Chartered Bank has preferred shares, whether it also has common stock? So if that being the case, if we don't know any of those things, we don't have any access to anything relative to the books of the Standard Chartered Bank, the balance sheet. We don't know the total assets of the Standard Chartered Bank Gambia. We don't know the total liabilities of the Standard Chartered Bank Gambia. We don't know the equity of the Standard Chartered Bank Gambia. So now the bank has made an announcement. I know it's unfortunate. The bank has been in existence, some people say, for almost 128 years. But now we have to protect the shareholders of the Gambia, people who deposit their money in the bank. Do we even have a FDIC, something like the FDIC, whereby when you invest,
Government insured.
take a deposit in the bank, at least you are guaranteed some amount of money in the event that the bank files a bankruptcy?
As far as I know, we don't.
So if we don't know that, if we do not know that, I am not trying to tell people to go tomorrow and take their money out of the bank, but I'm a Gambian. I want to talk about the interests of our people who have put money in that bank. You make your best judgment. You know that this bank is about to close. This bank also has obligations to pay the equity shareholders. So if you deposit your money there, is it a guarantee that you're going to get it? How are people who have purchased shares in Standard Chartered Bank? Do you know whether you're going to get less than what you invested in? So the choice is yours. All of us are Gambians. This is not a matter of the Barrow government failed. No, Standard Chartered Bank said that because of digital banking, even here in the United States, Bank of America has closed a lot of branches. Now online banking is what everybody looks at. I can write a check to someone. Do you even have to write a check anymore? You don't. You go to your bank, you Zelle money straight, the person receives it. So what is this thing here that the governor is going out there telling people to buy shares in Standard Chartered Bank, which I know that that's not going to happen. So is the central bank now going to be the intermediary to collect money from future shareholders for a future bank in the Gambia? But I can tell you, my friends, Gambians, let's be realistic here. The name Standard Chartered Bank will cease to exist in the Gambia. I'm predicting by January 31, because when I looked at their fiscal year, knowing that it ends on January, let me see, I think it ends on January 31. The beginning of the fiscal year is February 1. There is no way that the bank can continue to. Yeah, the bank will operate until right now. The bank's operation is short term. It's not long term. It's not, even if it's 12 months, it's short term. So you make that decision. Here in the US, if I put money there, at least FDIC guarantees me some amount of money. But for us in the Gambia, if you put money in a bank, the bank files a bankruptcy, you are not guaranteed to get your money. Right. So why are we going to lie to you, the corporate setup, and then tell you, keep your money there, and then at the end, when you try to get your money, you can't get it? So the decision is up to Gambians. So this is unfortunate, but this has nothing to do with Barrow's government. The Standard Chartered Bank that has just decided that because of competition, if you look at it, Standard Chartered Bank is not doing well in retail banking. They are not.
They're not.
Now, with the influx of banks from Nigeria and money laundering going on in our country, Standard Chartered Bank is a quality bank. So when it comes to quality, if you want to offer quality and you have money laundering activities in the country, you're the person who always want to advocate quality, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And that is why Standard Chartered Bank is right now at a disadvantage. So it's very unfortunate, but the bank is going to close. So my friends, ladies and gentlemen, Gambians, the decision is up to you. Decide what you want. But the governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia has no powers to stop Standard Chartered Bank from leaving the Gambia.
Thank you, Dr. Conte. Very well said. I totally agree. I don't think Standard Chartered Bank's retail banking sector has ever been great at all. When I was in Gambia, I wanted to open an account, a checking account with the Standard Chartered Bank, and I was seriously advised against it by one of my economist friends. And later on, I came to realize what he was telling me. So I ended up moving to what then was called Commerce Bank. But having said that, I think what the Standard Chartered Bank officials and probably the Central Bank of the Gambia officials are hoping is that this is clearly not a situation of a merger or an acquisition. It is not, what they are hoping actually is that Standard Chartered can sell off its 75% of its shares to new investors. And then those investors will take over the bank smoothly and transition it into a new entity without much friction, much trouble. But the truth is, and also, Dr. Conte, I think with the low PE ratio and the fact that a lot of these shares may be sold, a lot of these assets may be sold below book value, may be really a good thing for new investors. But that is only one side of the picture. The other side is that a lot of these investors will go into acquiring these assets without really full knowledge of how the bank is doing. The financials of the bank is still missing. I have no idea how the bank is doing in terms of its financial statements. And investors, potential buyers of these 75% of their shares probably need that information. So I think the bank officials should do more trying to disclose a lot of these facts than just do a PR propaganda. That is what I think needs to happen. But possibly it could be a good idea buying assets in this in Standard Chartered as it is now, because you are likely to acquire them at a low price if the future is bright. Possibly the stock price in the future will increase depending on how the bank is managed by the new owners. But at this time, it could be a good idea buying shares in the company at a much lower price. But anybody who wants to invest, like Dr. Conte said, excuse me, you definitely need to know the financials of this bank. You need to know how the bank is doing and what the future looks like for growth of this bank before you put in your money. Dr. Conte, I think that's about it. Unless you want to add something, we're going to leave it here, and then we'll come back again next Sunday and look at what's going on.
What else are we?
I think I wanted to squeeze in the audit reports in the Gambia, but
you have a few minutes to talk about that.
Yeah, we can just in passing, but the audit office is speaking a lot lately, Dr. Conte. The government is allegedly the government, according to audit report, the government is withdrawing and spending large amounts of millions of dollars. I've seen some reports of 63 million. I've seen some reports of 668 million, without following due process. I mean, what's going on in the Gambia? Already we had this investigations into the Port Authority. We have these investigations into the Ministry of Health. We have these investigations into the oil companies, Jar Oil and others. We have all this stuff going on. It's just mind-boggling, Dr. Conte. The Gambia, with all this talk we can do, with all these big plans we can come up with, if we do not control corruption, this country is not going to go anywhere, frankly speaking. All that we are doing is to line the pockets of officials who are supposed to be working for the interests of the Gambian population, ordinary Gambian people. And those people are getting poorer and poorer and poorer and poorer every day. Every day, their livelihoods are more and more challenged. It is increasingly difficult for them to feed their families. It is increasingly difficult for them to get health care in the country. At some point, we have to deal with this issue. And it is not difficult to deal with it. What I don't understand is the unwillingness, to deal with this. And this is heartbreaking for me, Dr. Conte, because when I look back in Gambia, it is my generation, who are running this country now. When I look at most of these institutions and offices, my high school classmates, my college classmates, in many cases, my friends, are basically the ones running the country. A lot of these people are people who should have known better. We share the same values, we share the same thinkings all through college level. We had big ambitions for this country. We had more, I would say, progressive, more aggressive, more proactive ideas to change this country for the better. But it looks like, I don't know, man, and many of these people are very upright, very honest, very upright people. But the problem in the Gambia is nobody is willing to rock the boat. Nobody is willing to do anything that will put them in the spotlight. And, rightfully, it's understandable. Because in the Gambia, the system we have there is like a gang system. If you don't conform, you are punished. They move you from your office, demote you or take you to foreign service somewhere far away where you don't have access to anything. They don't want any progressive, honest person around. If you don't follow the rules of the gang, the group, you are the one who is punished. They will report you and do all kind of stuff to ensure that you are removed from where you are. You don't continue to be an obstacle. So one can totally understand, but Gambia needs to deal with this issue. I think if the presidency is not willing to deal with it, the National Assembly should take the bull by the horns, and frankly speaking, devise a method that will, stop this. People need to be arrested. People need to be tried. People need to be imprisoned for many, many, many years. Minimum 10 years, and never served in public office if they are convicted of corruption. And like I said, we need to return to some of Jammeh era laws, frankly speaking. We need to empower the NIA to go aggressively against corruption. It's a national threat. It's a threat to national security. This country is bleeding, has been bleeding for a long time. Um, People are living lifestyles their salaries cannot provide for them. It's easy to see. You know, there's no. Recently, we were talking about government dishing out land to ministers and their families, their wives, their daughters. I mean, what is that? What is that kind of nepotism? You know, who is the minister's wife? Who is the minister's daughter for government to give them land for free? I mean, government. The purpose of government is not to share public property, public resources among themselves. They are there to serve the interests of the people. They need to do things that will benefit the people, not themselves. You know, and Barrow needs to go after these things. You know, people involved in these things need to lose their jobs, need to be fired and investigated and tried. If they're found culpable, they need to go to prison and serve their sentences. You know, that's the only way we can stop these things. Dr. Conte.
Well, we need to go back. Thank you. We need to go back to Sadauda era treasury. What I don't understand why I thought the Central Bank of the Gambia is the keeper of our money, and if then that is the case, why are government officials depositing money at private banks? That alone should stop as soon as possible. But this $669 million loot when UDP was in power. When Barrow, when he came, he said he did not know anything. Let us show him.
Right.
And now they're trying to disown Barrow, but it was their Barrow. And they're not saying anything. So they talked about 3 days ago or 2 days ago, they talked about the Barrow government giving land to ministers, or they went after them big time. But when the $669 million thing came out, they are all mute. They don't want to say anything. They're now trying to blame Barrow. They say, oh, it is the office of the president. But Usainu Dabo was what? Was the president in a way. He was a foreign minister. And the foreign affairs was a UDP political bureau, in my view. So when it comes to corruption, we shouldn't have any friends whatsoever. We should just say it just like it is. But I also fault the Auditor General for sitting on a report. And this is what I told Honorable Halifa Saleh. Why do you have to go and look at 2013 financials when we are in 2018? My guess is you should be looking for 2017 because that's the time that you came in. He disagreed. But for me, I don't understand why the Auditor General sat down. And people say, oh, we should give them a high five for what they did. I say, no. They sat on a very important report for 5 solid years, and only they're coming out with that. Because in financial reporting, because if you are doing audit, you are confined by accounting principles, whether it is International Financial Reporting Standards or the US GAAP. So when we look at the purpose of financial reporting, whether it is reporting for governmental or for private entities, we are looking at the primary characteristics of financial reporting. I want to look at one area which I believe the Auditor General's office violated, and we're talking about relevance in reporting, meaning that how do you find relevance in reporting is that information that you're going to need should be provided to you in a timely manner, that they failed to provide Gambians information that was needed urgently. Another one is that Gambians were unable to make decisions to get feedback on what they're going to have even before the presidential election. And now, Gambians now should be able to make prediction as to what is going to happen. So I don't buy this idea of giving the National Audit Office high five when they failed to provide the report. But again, corruption is everywhere. And thank God, I don't want to be part of that corruption. I have no interest in looting the treasury of the Gambia. But UDP is implicated in this. And now they want to disown Barrow. But before, way back in 2017, 2018, it was their Barrow. And I also asked, I say, what is the proximity of Minister Sane building that gigantic house over in the shopping mall in Bansang, when that man was in prison for how many years? And people are going to say, oh, he has his own auditing firm. I said, auditing firm, my foot. So 669 million. So we were talking about my party, asking my party, where is the 45 million? Was it 45 million US dollars? Where is that? And now on top of this, these people are doing all these things. Thank God UDP did not win the presidential election. Thank God they did not win the presidential election. And we should continue to talk about corruption.
Yes.
We need to have answers on this 669 million.
Yes.
How can anyone, if you look at the expenditure, so they have a single source bidding.
Right.
So we are all Gambians. So are you saying that only one person is given the opportunity for this bidding process when you know that the individual knows exactly how much to bid for because the bidding has been compromised?
Yeah.
No wonder we cannot go. We cannot progress anywhere in our country.
Right.
People who are upright, folks who want to fight against corruption.
Yeah.
They don't want those people to be near the corridors of power.
Yeah.
Anytime you say something, they say, "Oh, this man is against the president's agenda."
Yep. And then
that is why we cannot go. That's why the Gambia can never go as a nation.
Yeah.
Because of this corruption. This makes me sick.
I know.
But again, like I said, UDP was part of this scam.
Yeah.
And we have to say it like it is.
Yeah.
They betrayed our trust.
Yeah.
It's not Barrow who did this. Because when Barrow came in, he said he did not know. Show me the way.
Yeah.
UDP showed him the 669 million. Some people now are saying, this 669, I'm not going to say the guy's name. I call him Fakeba.
Okay.
Don't say his name. He said that it is 6 and 9. This is not laughing matter, though.
Yeah.
So you and me and the rest of Gambians in diaspora, we are the ones who make legit money. Our money is clean.
Yep.
And this is what I don't understand. Listen, no situation is permanent. There will be another government in the Gambia.
Yeah.
And if you steal, you're going to face the same commission of inquiry. And Gambians will not forgive you. So whether you've given land to the minister's wife and the minister, it's as if you've given the land to the minister. The president should be able to hear us. Because I believe the president is surrounded by psychopaths.
Yeah, but that's what
and
they do.
People like me who criticize continuously, they've labeled us as not liking the president's agenda when we are trying to save because I had an engagement with someone in the government, and the person appreciated the advice I gave him. So Barrow is not the problem. The problem, the people who are surrounding the president are the problem, and we will continue to have that problem in our country. Folks need to go to prison for 10 years. If Mahmoud Sabal can be banned for holding public office, why not? But I don't think anything is going to come out of it because the president they keep all these things in secret away from him. The folks who are surrounding him. The president is in a circle. There is no way you can see him because he's surrounded by people who are only interested in their own ends. One thing I like about Fabakary Tombong Jatta, and I will say it here, he spent 22 years with Yaya Jammeh. Fabakary Tombong was never called to answer questions at the Ghana Commission. Fabakary Tombong Jatta was never called to come and testify at TRRC. They burnt his compound down. I don't understand this UDP people. Whether Fabakary was associated with Yaya Jammeh, that is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking at the integrity of the man. This gentleman spent 22 years with Yaya Jammeh. He was never called for corruption. That's the type of person we need to run the affairs of our country. You call yourself a freedom fighter, but you're still underneath. You are only there just to immerse yourself, to steal funds from the people of the Gambia. It's sad. It's really sad.
It is.
Barrow should not be blamed for this 669 or 609. UDP government, they were a part of this because Amadou Sane built a humongous building in Bansang, and no one can tell me that because he owns an auditing farm, he has that money. No. They all benefited from this. I bet if they have search warrants going into all these, all the former ministers, all the former government officers, if they have search warrants, they go to their houses. They'll find money there. I bet they have safes there. I bet some of those people have over $1 million is saved in their houses. So in the Gambia, they glorify people who steal. And if you refuse to steal, they look at you as a jackass. Sorry for my French.
Thank you, Dr. Conte. Very well said. I recall when the coalition government came into office newly, there was this statement by my Ahmed Fati.
Oh, just leave the man alone. That man is
Fati claimed that the central bank was empty. The Gambian coffers was empty. There was nothing. Jammeh took everything. And Halifa would not take none of it. Halifa was like, I don't want to hear it. And at the time, people criticized Halifa for that. But, people did not know this large sums of money, we talk about 668 or 69, has been taken out, so I don't know. I think Gambians need to look within themselves. I don't live in the Gambia. Dr. Konda, you don't live there. We are doing this just out of our own contribution to our country, even only at the level of ideas only. We could have been doing something else more worthwhile. But we come from the Gambia, and the Gambia means a lot to us still. So we came to this country and have been lucky enough to acquire some level of education and some level of prosperity. So we're spending at least an hour of our time every week to discuss our country and give our views and our ideas about our country, hoping that somehow some of what we say will make a difference somehow, on even if only one person, two people in government, the long-term effect can be profound somehow. Information and discussion, information sharing and discussion are very critical elements of development itself. So I hope the Gambia government, listen to a variety of people, critics and supporters alike, and be able to involve those informations or those ideas and those critiques into their assessment of the Gambia's situation and how to move our country forward from the predicament it is in currently. If the Gambia is poor, if the Gambia is backward, the individual means less. You can amass millions of dollars, but you continue to live in a country with no roads, no infrastructure, no medical care. A country of largely starvation. Um, you know, um, at some point, you have to question yourself: does this mean anything? Everybody should do the little bit they can to move this country forward, to make it a better place for all of us. Particularly those living in the country. There's a lot that can be done, but it's going to take everybody. It's going to take honesty. It's going to take, being contented with what you earn. And, there's no restriction on some of these people to involve in private business. They can as well and make additional money and stuff. But, the country's resources need to be put to the best use of the Gambian people. Dr. Conte, we're going to end here. We'll be back next Sunday.
Okay.
And we will look at some other issues as they unfold. And I thank you very much for being here. We thank everybody for being here. We'll meet again next Sunday.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.